This is my second video update from Athens, Greece on this Wednesday early evening. Let's do a quick update on some important news topics. And let's start things off with a mistake that I made on my morning video with Jungle Joseph Borrell. I said that he was from Portugal, which is wrong. Jungle Joseph is from Spain, and he is from a village in Catalonia. That is where Jungle Joseph is from. The village actually is the Catalan village of La Pobla de Segur, and that's the village where they're looking to remove his name from one of the streets. So I apologize to everyone in Portugal, and I apologize to everyone in Spain because, well, Jungle Joseph. Anyway, Antonio Guterres, he is the UN Secretary General. He is from Portugal. So I apologize to everyone in Portugal because, well, Antonio Guterres. Anyway, all right, so that was my mistake, but I am still wearing my Portugal Duran shirt with pride because I love the colors of the Portuguese flag. Anyway, let's get to some news. Enough rambling on. Let's get to some quick news topics. So we have two more big media outlets running a Nord Stream sabotage pipeline story. One of them is the Washington Post, and the other one is the Times. Now, the Washington Post article, they claim that intelligence officials suspect Ukraine partisans behind Nord Stream bombings. Partisans are becoming really popular nowadays, aren't they? Right? Russian partisans, Belarusian partisans, Ukraine partisans. Really popular, those partisans. Anyway, the Washington Post is claiming that we're looking at Ukraine partisans. They were the ones behind the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage. But the Washington Post is very clear in stating that there are no ties to the Elensky regime. So the Washington Post is the paper of the CIA, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. It's the Democrat Party / CIA mouthpiece. I might be wrong about that, but I think that's the function of the WAPO. It's definitely the DC, Democrat DC insider mouthpiece. So keep that in mind when they come out with their article on Nord Stream and say that it was Ukrainian partisans, but no ties to Elensky. So they're giving Elensky a pass. We have the Times. They have come out with their Nord Stream article, and they're saying that Western intel services, they've known about the Ukrainian trace of sabotage on the Nord Stream pipeline for a while now. They've known about this Ukrainian element to the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage. Actually, I think the Times even said that it's some sort of Ukrainian entrepreneur, and they even know the saboteur's name. If I remember correctly, that's what the Times reported. So the Times said that information did not become public, as this would lead to an aggravation of relations between Ukraine and Germany. So they've been sitting on this dude or this dudette. They've been sitting on their name now for almost for how long now? For 6 months, for the better part of 6 months. And they didn't want to aggravate the relationship between Germany and Ukraine. And that's why they've been keeping the identity of this saboteur hidden. Yeah. Boy, everyone is coming up with the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage story. I think we all need to make up a Nord Stream pipeline sabotage story. All of a sudden, we're being flooded with information on Nord Stream. Isn't that interesting? Maybe muddying the waters a bit, perhaps, in anticipation of Seymour Hersh's follow-up to his original Nord Stream pipeline sabotage report. Who knows? Who knows? Are they throwing Elensky under the bus? Are some reports not throwing Elensky under the bus? Are we getting two different Elensky under the bus narratives? One side, like the Washington Post, is trying to give an off-ramp to Olaf Scholz while preserving Elensky, while some other reports, like say the Zeit online or the New York Times, is maybe trying to provide the White House and Scholz an off-ramp while keeping the door open to, let's go this way, to an Elensky did it. Who knows? But definitely this is a cover-up to me. Maybe this is all real. Maybe someone really did rent a yacht in Poland and drove that yacht to where the Nord Stream pipeline was, and they scuba dived with God knows how much explosives, and they blew up the pipeline only to get back onto the yacht and take that yacht to the place where they rented it and give it back to that company. And then these people just kind of vanished. Maybe people, partisans. These are not people. These are partisans. Anyway, maybe this is all true. Who knows? I'm going to stick with Seymour Hersh's his account. But, a cover-up, muddying the waters, trying to get Olaf Scholz off the hook, trying to get the Biden White House off the hook, Nuland, Blinken, Sullivan, throw Elensky under the bus, not throw Elensky under the bus, maybe keep Elensky dangling, like Elensky. Well, right now we're saying that that there's no evidence pointing to you, but just, keep that in mind, because we can make the evidence point to you whenever we wish. So don't you do anything that we don't approve of. Anyway, crazy, man, crazy. So that's the latest on the Nord Stream pipeline stories. Now we have four and counting. 4 and counting. Peskov, the Kremlin spokesman, he said this about the Nord Stream pipeline stories. He said, clearly the authors of the terrorist attack want to distract attention. Obviously, this is a coordinated stuffing in the media. That's what he said, commenting about the New York Times and the Zeit online Nord Stream article. And he also said that how can American officials referred to by the publications, the New York Times and the Zeit, can assume something about the terrorist attacks on the Nord Streams without an investigation? Well, that's the point, is to come out with all of these articles so that you muddy the waters and you don't even talk about an investigation. Close the book on it. Get the mainstream media to build the narrative, say this is who did it and how it was done. Maybe they'll even find someone and put them out in front and say, this is the Ukrainian partisan who did it. This is his group of 5 divers and a woman doctor. Here they are. Maybe, find 6 people and and throw them out to us. Build that narrative. These are the people that did it, and shut this investigation down before it even gets started. That is the point of all of this, isn't it? Let's do 2 more stories, 3 more stories, and we'll wrap it up. Quick stories, very quick stories. A follow-up on the protests in Tbilisi, Georgia, this foreign agent protest. The president of Georgia is currently in the U.S., from what I understand, while these protests are going on. Isn't that convenient? Salome Zurabichvili was born in France. This is the president of Georgia, born in France, and attended Columbia University. She's currently in the U.S. Donbas Debushka says, I can't make this S up if I tried. Yep. Yep. And she's, by the way, of course, she's in favor of the protesters who are protesting this foreign agent bill that I talked about in my morning video. So we have that. She really does remind me of Maya Sandu of Moldova. These Georgia, these Columbia educated or Harvard educated, Yale educated, wherever they went to school. These Ivy League school educated presidents and prime ministers. What's going on at these Ivy League schools? I wonder if 3-letter agencies aren't, grabbing these people and bringing them into the system, or certain WEF leaders aren't getting a hold of these Ivy League students and putting them into a certain system. Just wondering. Let's now talk about Belarus and do an update on Belarus. And Lukashenko, he called Elensky a scum. Yeah, that's Lukashenko. He called him a scum. This is after they did an investigation on the A-50 drone bombing, which allegedly damaged this A-50 slightly, according to Lukashenko and the investigation that took place in Belarus. But Lukashenko, he said that Elensky is a scum. Here is his quote. He said, there can be only one conclusion. President Elensky is just scum. As such operations, in reference to this attack on the A-50 in an airfield outside of Minsk, as such operations are never carried out without the consent of the head of state and the commander-in-chief. I am telling you this as a president. The exact word that Lukashenko used in describing Elensky was the Russian word gnida, which is Russian for louse egg or nit. A gnida. Elensky the gnida. All right, Lukashenko. Lukashenko's a pretty colorful character, I have to admit. So Lukashenko called Elensky a gnida. I just learned a new Russian word. Очень хорошо, a gnida. He called him a scum, basically saying that Elensky must have given the order to strike at this Minsk airbase, because these kind of attacks, according to Lukashenko, they don't happen without the approval of the head of state. So a Ukrainian partisan attack on, say, critical infrastructure, according to Lukashenko, would not happen without the approval of a head of state. Is that correct? I don't know. Just asking. I'm asking for a friend. Let's talk about Boris Johnson. Since we're on Belarus, Boris Johnson, he met with the one-time presidential candidate for Belarus, who was actually just part of a more elaborate coup d'etat plot. That is Miss Tikhanovskaya, who is now in exile, living in, I believe, Poland. And she was just sentenced the other day to 15 years in prison by a court in Belarus, as she was looking to overthrow the legitimate government, and she was found guilty. But she's in exile in Poland. And Boris Johnson, he went to visit her. And this is what Boris Johnson tweeted as he met Tikhanovskaya. He said, "A real honor to meet President-elect Tikhanovskaya of Belarus, and to reaffirm my support for a free and independent Belarus, and also to recognize the heroic contribution of Belarusian volunteers to the fight for freedom in Ukraine." Haven't we been down this, the real president of a country narrative before? Venezuela, Juan Guaido. Haven't we been down this path, and we know how all of this ends? So Miss Tikhanovskaya in exile in Poland, I think you should look at the entire history of the recent history of Venezuela and Juan Guaido, and you'll find out exactly how this ends for you. But here we go again with another president-elect in exile who is recognized by the international community as the real president of a country, while the real president of that country that 80% of the other world recognizes is actually in power. So, and anyway, here we go again. Another Juan Guaido, the female Juan Guaido, has been born in Tikhanovskaya, and of course Boris Johnson is there to meet with her. Of course, Boris Johnson going for that NATO Secretary General job. And finally, let's do one last story. I don't know if this is a clown world. Maybe we can call it a clown world, maybe not. This has to do, we come full circle, and it has to do with Jungle Joseph Borrell and his comments related to the protests in Georgia, in Tbilisi. Jungle Joseph, he urged Georgia to uphold its commitment to democracy, the rule of law, and human rights. According to Jungle Joseph, the draft law on foreign agents is incompatible with the values of the EU and contradicts Georgia's goal of joining the Union. It's so interesting when you see these protests. They have all of these EU flags, and this protest has Ukrainian flags, and you just got to wonder, where are they getting all of these flags? Who's giving them all of these flags? What NGOs are passing out these flags to these protesters? But Jungle Joseph saying that the foreign agents law is just not compatible with EU values. What exactly are those EU values? I never knew that EU values had to do with entities, NGOs, and universities getting funding from foreign state actors. I didn't know that was central to EU values. I guess it is. Human rights as well. It's not compatible with EU human rights. This is coming from a European Union that is going after foreign assets, that is going after the money of people, a European Union that still has a journalist, the editor-in-chief of Sputnik, still in prison in, I believe, either Latvia or Lithuania. For what crime? No one knows. We can talk about Julian Assange, though he's in a prison in the UK, but still, we can talk about Julian Assange and human rights and EU values, or how about the EU that has blocked the human right of freedom of movement by blocking off their airspace to Belarusian airlines and to Russian airlines. How about that human right? Can you say that human beings have the right to move and to travel? Well, not if you're flying with a Belarusian or Russian airline. If you're using those airlines, then EU airspace is closed off to you. Anyway, I could go on and on about those EU values and human rights that Jungle Joseph is talking about. But no doubt about it, the EU, NATO, the globalists, they are focusing on Georgia. They're focusing on Serbia. They're focusing on Hungary. I talked about this in a video I did last week. The collective West, they are focusing on all of these countries to consolidate these countries into the collective West sphere of influence as a new Cold War is coming about. So they want to consolidate all these countries and bring them in line with their collective West system. So if you see Samantha Power making trips to Serbia, another trip to Hungary, and showing up in Georgia, then you know that you've got protests and color revolutions underway. Anyway, by the way, Samantha Power was in Moldova like 6 months ago. Isn't that interesting? Something like that. I saw a video the other day where she was meeting with Maya Sandu, something like 5-6 months ago. Anyway, I will leave the video there, theduran.locals.com. We are on Rockfin as well. And go to the Duran shop. As I said, Portugal, 10% off. Use the code. Good day. Take care.